Hello. Welcome to How Multiple Book Authors Brand Themselves and Their Websites. I'm Nina Amir, the Inspiration to Creation Coach. I help people get from that moment of inspiration when the light bulb goes on to the actual creation of whatever it is they want without other things getting in the way of making that happen. And that means I help you combine your passion and your purpose and get inspired to take inspired action to get the results you want, which in this case is a book and a brand. We're going to be talking about this very graphic that you see in front of you. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about why I talk about branding and how I came up with this particular graphic and this framework that I'm going to teach you. I'm not going to change any slides. We're just going to stay right here on this page. So just bear with me with that. I'm sorry if that seems boring, but there's nothing else you need but this particular graphic. So some of you may know that I am the author of books like How to Blog a Book, the Author Training Manual, and Creative Visualization for Writers, as well as a slew of ebooks, actually a series of ebooks called the Write Nonfiction Now Guides to Writing. And there are some other books in there too, which are related to personal development and spirituality. And, I even have written about and still occasionally write about dance. And so here's the thing. When I started out, I didn't know anything about branding. I very quickly learned about the power of a blog and a website, and I began blogging. And before I knew it, I had 5 blogs. And people, I thought, saw me as, kind of a multiple personality. They didn't know what I did because I did so many things. I wrote about blogging and blogging books, and I wrote about nonfiction writing and publishing. And I wrote about personal development and spirituality and metaphysics. And I also wrote about dance, boys and dance specifically. And so I realized at a certain point that this multiple personality wasn't helping me any. And I really needed to get clear about who I wanted to be and how I wanted to be known as an author. And that involved branding. It meant that I needed sort of an umbrella website over everything I did. And you'll see that now if you were to go to ninaamir.com, you'll notice that I have links to all my blogs, not the dance one anymore, but the Write Nonfiction Now.com and howtoblogAbook.com and the blog on ninaamir.com, which is called As the Spirit Moves Me. And those links are all there on this one site. And so when you show up on ninaamir.com, it says that I'm the Inspiration to Creation Coach, and I help you achieve more inspired results. And you can find programs and blogs and courses and coaching and all kinds of things there. So it's the umbrella. It needs a little cleaning up at the moment, but you get the idea that I took everything and I put it under one brand. Well, that took me about 2 years. I worked with a friend of mine who asked me some tough questions, and we filled a whole poster board with all kinds of words. And we came up with what we thought was a new moniker for me, or brand. And I tried it out on my media coach at the time, a man who had a very successful radio show that was doing media coaching with me as I was appearing on his radio show quite often. And he said, it's not there yet. Nina, go out and ask everybody you know what you do for them. And so I did. And what I discovered was that it didn't matter what topic I was writing about or speaking about, I was inspiring people. And when I looked deeply at each of the sites that I had, each of the blogs, I realized that they had one theme in common, which was creation. Creation of books, creation of blogs, creation of blog-to-book deals, creations of nonfiction books, and careers as authors and journalists and bloggers, careers as dancers, and also just creating your best self and your best life and stepping into the creative process of whatever you wanted, whether it was money or a house or a new job or better health, didn't matter. Picture, painting, a book. So all of what I did had to do with creating something. And I was inspiring people to do that. And that's where Inspiration to Creation Coach came from. The tagline of Achieve More Inspired Results, using an acronym for my last name, was sort of a side thing that happened when I was at a speaking event where somebody used their name as an acronym, and I decided to try doing that. And 5 minutes later, I had achieved more inspired results. But all of this came from some hard work after being out there creating a lot of stuff, a lot of properties, as we say, on the internet, and then needing a way to bring them all together. I came up with this particular framework I'm going to teach you today out of my own experience. So after I created my own branding, I found a lot of other writers and bloggers and authors who were like me, writing about different topics or had many different books, and they were trying to figure out how to brand themselves. So I always qualify that, before teaching this with saying that I'm not a branding expert, but I do know something about branding yourself as an author, especially if you have multiple books you want to write and they don't all seem to fit together. So let's take a look at this framework. You're an author or an aspiring author, and you have more than one book idea. So how are you going to brand yourself and your websites? You're going to start out with a purpose statement. Okay, purpose statement. That's number one. What is it that you want to accomplish? What do you feel is your mission or goal as a writer, or maybe even as a person? And how does that how does that relate to how you want to be known as an author? And that's what we talk about most often with branding, is how do you want to be known? It's easy enough to let the audience decide what they think of you and what you're known for, but it may not end up being what you want to be known for. So branding is about really taking control of your image out there in the world. And so you're going to stop for a moment and write a purpose statement or a mission statement that relates to what you provide, the value you provide or service you provide to others, and your purpose in the world or with your books. Okay? What is it that you want to contribute? What do you feel you've been called to write about and do? How are you going to impact your readers' lives in a positive and meaningful way? All right, once you have that, I want you to take some time to brainstorm books. You're going to look at all the different books that you might want to write, okay? You might want to write a novel plus a nonfiction book plus a memoir. You might want to write books on several different topics. You might, for instance, like me, be writing about 3 different topics. Okay, so you're going to brainstorm all your book ideas, every last one of them. It may be something you don't know if you'll ever write, but it's there kind of in your mind, and as you're brainstorming, it comes up. Okay, so you're going to write down all your book ideas. Once you have all these book ideas listed, okay, maybe you have a subtitle with them, or a title and a subtitle, or maybe you just have a title, or maybe it's just a subject. Okay, that's fine. But you have a list of, let's say, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 books. You're going to spend some time thinking about the themes that run through them. You may have more than one theme. If you can get to one theme, however, for all your books, that's even better. So what do I mean by themes? Themes are different than topics. Themes, so let's say you're writing a book. You have 3 books, and the first one is on, gardening, native landscaping. And the next book is on vegetable gardens. And the next one is on container gardening. Okay, so we have 3 books that seem, gardening is obviously a theme that runs through all of them, right? That's the primary subject. Okay, so we have gardening, but we have native landscaping, we have container gardening, and we have vegetable gardening. 3 very different types of gardening books. So you have to ask yourself what these books have in common. Yes, gardening is one thing they have in common, and you could call that a theme, but it's really more of a topic. I want you to look at what the angle is that you plan to, what angle you plan to write these books from. So is are they all related to, in some way, to being at one with the land? Or gardening within the structure of where you live. So for instance, if you are in an urban area, maybe the container gardening really works for you. And maybe the vegetable gardening book talks about how to grow vegetables, in a small space. That may be the angle, okay? Because a lot of people don't have a big space. Right? And then you have the native landscaping, and maybe that has to do with urban living as well. And maybe you're landscaping around your condo or on the patio of your apartment with native plants. Well, so now you can see that the theme really is small spaces, gardening in small spaces. That would be a theme. Okay? Now, if you were writing a series of novels and you wanted to find a theme, you might look to see whether, empowering women is something that runs through every book. Maybe every one of your books has a woman who has to regain her power, her personal power, and so that would then become a theme. Maybe you have a series of novels where, let's see, they're all every single one of them is spiritual in nature, and it's about God's hand in somebody's life. So then the theme would be God's hand. The subject matter might be, in the stories could be very different, each one of them, right? But the theme would be God's hand. If you were writing about step parenting, let's say, you might be writing a book about step parenting for moms, and you might be writing a book about step parenting for dads, and you might be writing a book about step parenting when it's yours, mine, and ours. And so you have, dads, moms, yours, mine, and ours, right? So those are three different topics. Step parenting would definitely be the primary topic, but how you approach those books then is going to reveal the theme. So maybe your approach is, maybe you have a specific framework that you use in each one that relates to kindness. So maybe every time, you go back to looking at the situation with kindness, and then kindness would be the theme. So I hope you get the idea there. So what you want to do once you have your purpose and your books and your theme is make sure your theme relates to your purpose. And that might be a key, especially if you're planning out books, to look at what you want to accomplish with your books and to then begin to think about themes. And as you come up with themes, to choose one that really fits with your purpose and revolve all your books around that theme. Now, why would you want to have one theme? You want to have one theme because you want to create this author website or blog, and you want it to be branded. Okay, so we're going to hop over from themes to branding. And what I want you to think about here is how you could take the theme, which is going to tie into your purpose, right? Your mission. Everything should be lined up. On the right-hand side, everything should be lined up. Purpose, books, and themes should all be lined up. Then you're going to hop over to branding, and you're going to start thinking kind of like I did. How can you, what are you going to, how do you want to be known? Is it as the Inspiration to Creation coach? Is it, do you just want to be known as your name because you're primarily an author and that's all you're doing is writing? And so you want to be known by your name, and that's fine. So you would purchase the URL for your name, just like I have ninaamir.com. But beyond that, when somebody gets to your website, that you have 6 seconds in order to get them to stay. They have to understand what you do for them, what's in it for them to stay on your site within the first 6-7 seconds that they show up there, or else they go away and they don't come back. So what are you going to tell them about yourself? What's the benefit that you offer them? And that again is going to tie into the theme and the purpose. So all your books should have a theme, or maybe it's 2 themes that run through them, okay, that are similar, and it should tie into your purpose statement. Okay, so if it was the step parenting book, maybe it's your theme is step parent. Maybe your tagline or your brand becomes step parenting with kindness, or the kind. I can't think of anything else right now, but step parenting with kindness, or with the book idea that I had on gardening, if we're talking about gardening in small spaces, or using, maybe you could say you're aligning with nature, urban alignment with nature, something like that, right? So you're looking for some kind of statement. I always call it a tagline that will say what you do for people. A lot of writers say, but, I am writing about all these different things. How am I going to, approach that? So, if you're the writer writing about step parents and step parenting, and that you're going to switch gears and write some books for women, then, maybe you have to come up with a different kind of brand statement that is not related to step parenting, but more related to a bigger umbrella. Okay, so you have to look at where, what is the thread that runs through these other books you're going to write for women that's at all related to the step parenting books. And you're going to come up with some kind of a statement for that, a tagline. So as you can see with the author website and blog just above branding, you're then going to implement it there. I already talked about a URL. Right, so you might have a URL with your name, or you might have a URL that says, something about urban gardening, I don't know, and then you're going to have your tagline. And maybe the tagline for the gardening one is, helping you create native landscapes in urban settings. And then it's very clear. I get to this website. If I'm looking for a way to take my tiny little square of land or my patio or whatever it is and create some semblance of being in nature and having it be, related to where I live, then that would tell me in a minute that's where what I was going to get. That I was going to get native landscaping for urban dwellers. There's a good tagline, native landscaping for urban dwellers. So that's what you're looking for, and that's going to be on your website, okay? So you'll have your URL, which is, ninaamir.com, writenonfictionnow.com, urbanliving.com, whatever you have, right? So your URL, and your name will be on the page. It'll say, Nina Amir author, or whatever you're going to put there, and then your tagline. Okay, so now you develop your website and blog around this theme that you've created and this tagline and the value you give people and your mission, your purpose. Everything on your website should relate to that. Okay, and so you'll develop your headshot or your images or your colors or any of those things, logos, all of that. But those are not your brand. Your brand really is what you stand for, who you are, how you want to be known. So if we think about, Nike, we always think of just do it. Think about Levi jeans, you think about sturdy, right? Think of Ferrari, you think fast car, right? Maybe expensive fast car. So you want certain words to come to people's mind when they think of you. And that's really what your branding is about. And so once you've branded your website, you're going to think about, well, let's just go from website to platform elements, and we'll come back to the blog in just a second. Your author website, whatever you've done there in terms of color and verbiage and all of that, and logos, you want to then take that to your platform elements, meaning your social media sites, okay, or anything that you do. If you have a podcast or a YouTube station, it all should look like your website and have the same languaging and the same sorts of images so that people begin to recognize it. Every time they see it, it's always the same. It doesn't matter where they go, they can recognize you, okay? It's like we always know the Ferrari, prancing horse. We always know that when we see it, that the prancing horse, that it's Ferrari. So you want that recognizable element, even though it doesn't necessarily have to be in a logo. All right, so let's come back to the blog and talk about that for a minute, because your blog is a huge tool, really important and powerful tool in your branding efforts. Because on your blog, you're going to be talking about your theme. So if you have books on multiple topics, but you have one theme that runs through them, then what you do is you blog about, you blog on the topics that are related to your books, but you always come back to the theme. Okay, so you want to find, if you have all these different books, let's say you have 5 books and 5 topics, you're going to want to use those topics and always tie them into the theme that you have, your branding, right, at this point. Tie it back into that so that when people read your blog posts, they always get that this is who you are and what you do for people, the value you bring. And so you might have these 5 books, and you might, each book, has its own subject. And so you're going to rotate through those subjects on your blog, even though those books are not out yet. Because now you have this big picture view of where you're going. And you can say, oh, okay, I have 5 books, and they're on these different topics, and I'm going to blog about those topics and rotate through. Every week I'll write about a different topic, but it always gets tied back to my purpose. The theme that ties these books together, that thread, and my branding, what I am saying, who I say I am, how I want to be known, how I want to be an expert, an influencer, all of that. So that's how the blog helps. And of course, you're going to be driving people back to that blog from your social media sites. So you'll be sharing there, and those social media sites are going to look, feel, have the same message as what's on your website. So when people show back up on your blog, they're going to feel like they've gone just from one of your satellites, as I like to call them, to your home station. And that's where you're broadcasting your message, which is your website and your blog. The blog allows you to broadcast your message, and the satellites, the social media sites, help you to do that. It's where you share, you broadcast out to them. So all of this ties together then into a really nice brand. And the key really here, I'll leave you with this, the key is to take the time to figure out what it is you want to accomplish with your books. What's your purpose as a writer and an author? To be future-minded and brainstorm as many books as you can, and to do the hard work of discovering the theme that runs through them all. Again, you might have more than one theme, but then you're going to have to try to combine that into that brand statement. Okay, so I like it if you can get to one theme, and that may end up being closer to your purpose. But really, your books need to fulfill your purpose. They need to help you do that. So it all has to be tied together. And that's how you'll go over to the branding and get your tagline and begin to work with that message that you're sharing about who you are and what you do for readers, what you do for your audience, what value you bring them. And remember, that's all they care about, is what's in it for them. They want to know what you can do for them. And that needs to be very clear in your branding, and it needs to come through in your books. So I hope that was helpful. Again, I'm Nina Amir, the Inspiration to Creation Coach. Go on over to ninaamir.com and check out everything that's over there. Take a look at writenonfictionnow.com. You can also go to howtoblogAbook.com. I have a lot of resources for writers. The Write Nonfiction in November Challenge. I have the Nonfiction Writers University and the Nonfiction Writers University Master's Program, and I also run personal development programs for writers, known as the High Performance Writer or Charged Writer, Declared Writer. So check me out. Shoot me an email if you have any questions or if I can help you in any way. I hope this was very helpful. And until next time, go out there and achieve more inspired results.